Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentleman Holiday Month. I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is...
What's up? I'm that Matt Kid.
And I'm Steve.
And we are here today to discuss another Christmas movie for Holiday Month. What movie is that, Steve?
Alright, so today we are talking about Black Christmas. Not the perennial classic and one of the greatest horror films of all time from the 70s, no. We're talking about the 2006 remake starring a bunch of CW actors and Mary Elizabeth Weinstein for some reason.
I was about to say, you watch your mouth.
No, don't worry. I recognize our queen.
Good.
I don't know who anyone in this is, so...
You didn't watch Buffy or Arrow, so that tracks.
I watched Arrow.
You watched Arrow. You watched some of Arrow. Okay, yeah, Laurel.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
Okay. So, CW actor.
But yeah, no, we've been talking about shitty Christmas movies. We've been talking about horror Christmas movies. We've been talking about shitty Christmas horror movies. So I was between a few options for this week. But I love Black Christmas. I rewatch that movie on a pretty regular basis. And I realized that there are several remakes of that movie, and I've just never seen any of them. So this was a good excuse to finally check one of those out. There are other Black Christmas remakes, and from what I understand, this one's just called Black Xmas. But the rest
they took the Christ out of Black Christmas, and it makes me sad. It's really an indictment on what's wrong with this nation.
I mean, Alex Jones was right. It's a war on Christmas, and it starts here.
So, like, this one comes out in 2006, and it's Xmas, and it's edgy, but it's also in the middle of a bunch of other horror movie remakes, because this is 2006, and Rob Zombie Halloween is 2009. Nightmare on Elm Street is 2010. Actually, you might be right. It might be 2007. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure Nightmare on Elm Street is 09 and Halloween is 07.
And then
I'm
Friday.
not sure about Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th is 09.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like we in like a 4 or 5 year span, whatever the years are, we got a whole bunch of classic slasher remakes. And this one appears to be the earliest, so I just figured that'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hate this one, in all honesty. I don't know, maybe my taste for shitty movies is just higher than your guys's, because I didn't think this was all that bad. Like, it's not good. I'm not gonna, like, write home about it, but I don't know, I was watching it, it got, like, had some decent jump scares here and there. It had some nice over-the-top moments and shit. It made me, like, actually repulsed at one point when the mom went upstairs to go fuck the kid. I was like, okay, that was gross.
That's that 2000s edginess I'm here for.
Let's
go.
Yeah. Though I will say my biggest complaint about this is, like, it tries to do a mystery around the number of killers, and it tries to, like, misdirect you about who the other killer might be.
Yeah.
But instead of feeling misdirected, I legitimately just felt so confused. And, like, not in, like, oh, that's so clever. Just like but who the fuck is it? Until, like, well after the reveal.
Yeah.
There was a point about like 40 minutes through where I had to pause and pull up the Wikipedia to understand where I was in the story. I'm like, wait, hang on a second, what's happening?
Yeah,
Well,
it's just like
because
I feel like the misdirection is almost unfair because when we see the sister daughter in flashback, she has brown hair, but then they just start showing her walking around and she's got blonde hair, and that's to make you think of the like creepy girl that gave the unicorn head or whatever.
right.
But I'm just like, but that's just not fair. Like as from like that writer audience perspective, right? I guess she could have dyed her hair in a mental institution, but it just feels like unfairly deceptive.
Are they trying to do like, because I made the mistake of, I had never seen the original or this one, so I made the mistake of double featuring them.
Oh no.
Oh.
Which I should not have done, but that's okay. And it made me wonder, because the original does have like kind of a red herring character. And so I'm wondering if they introduced the like glasses chick, like almost as a nod, because this movie is not terribly interested in replicating any of the original outside of the most superficial. And so I'm wondering if they're just like, okay, well, let's put a little red herring character in here because there's a red herring character in the original, but let's not devote any time to them, so them being a red herring is completely obvious.
Yeah, I feel like that's maybe the one little nod that it gives the original besides naming the killer Billy. But then aside from that, it essentially just takes its own path the entire time. I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to watch both of them back to back, because in one instance you're getting a really good movie, and then on the other instance you're getting a really bad movie, but they don't feel directly related.
They don't, and it's interesting too, because I think it's a really, and I don't want to make the whole episode about this necessarily, but it's an interesting exercise in like film pacing, right? Because these are two movies of basically the same length, give or take a few minutes. And the 70s film, while much more deliberate and methodical in its pacing, because it's a mystery and a thriller, and then you get to the 2006 one and it is much snappier, and yet it is much more dull somehow. So I think it's a really interesting experiment to kind of compare and contrast those two. But I mean, I appreciate a lot of what the 2006 movie is going for. You were talking about like the backstory with the killer, and I appreciate just how over the top and edgy it is at like literally every conceivable turn. It's just like, all right, I just like, and
you could have stopped the flashbacks at any like 3-minute interval and been satisfied.
And been like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I get why he would murder people. They just keep going. Yeah, exactly.
No, you're 100% right about the pacing there, where one is a lot slower. This is a bad movie for sure, but I didn't hate this, honestly. It is somehow worse than I thought it was going to be, but I still found myself entertained because the kills were a lot of fun. I thought they had some creative ones here and there. Being stabbed over the head by the icicle is always a classic one. There was some cleavage, there was some ass, so largely I was pretty happy with that. The biggest
Ticking
problem,
all the
though,
boxes.
yeah, exactly. The largest problem for me though is, like you said, it's just kind of dull. Where I feel like you're gonna make an exploitive, murder-happy horror movie with the most over-the-top serial killer motivation of all time, and it's just not. It's not thrilling. It never feels like anyone's in any danger. It never feels like, with a lot of horror movies, you always get like that buildup of suspense of the killer seeing someone, and you as the audience are like, "Turn around, you idiot! Turn around!" And then they turn around and they finally die. But this movie doesn't really have that. It's got like maybe one scene when the drunk girl gets into the shower and you see the eye on the tile. but it never builds on any of those moments. It never has a bunch of suspense. You're basically introduced to a location where someone will die, and then they almost immediately die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels like, again, maybe that's my big takeaway from this movie. It almost just feels unfair, both like from an audience member watching it and just like to the characters. Because like part of what makes a good horror is that no, don't be an idiot. No, get out of there. Oh, don't turn around. Oh, don't let him get that thing. Whereas like these characters, there's literally just nothing they could do. Like
Right.
he tells them to leave the house and they don't, but then when they try to leave the house, he starts killing them. So what the fuck were they supposed to do?
That's a good point.
I'm getting a lot of mixed messages here, man. Like, I don't...
Well, no, like it's, you know, it's not just, well, you know, it was too late then. No, like people that like left before the fucking phone call are getting fucking murdered for no reason. It's just unfair.
No, 100%, 100%. It also has this problem where I feel like, you know, the characters superficially, like you're supposed to in this sort of situation. Like they're all kind of ditzy, they all come from cliche backgrounds, but you're spending so much time with them like just in the living room arguing without ever giving any time to develop any of those tensions. Like they're all catty with each other. They all dislike each other to some degree. Michelle Trachtenberg is like weirdly nice to the drunk girl. And then, what's her name? Laurel from Arrow has a weirdly controlling and paranoid boyfriend who just wants to fuck right now. And all of those people, like I get the archetype. I don't need them to be fully three-dimensional. But I always felt like it was trying to convince me that it was taking time with these characters, but every line out of their mouth was always just kind of nothing. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character is a good point, or a good example of this, because I feel like she has this lot. Someone has this drop of her backstory where they're like, she's a rich kid, that she's got a lot of money and she's just going home to her rich parents, and they make jokes about that here and there, but it's essentially meaningless. And her death really has nothing to do with that. There's no sort of irony to it or anything. It feels like you keep sprinkling in this information like I'm supposed to care. You never do anything with it, so I get really bored, and then they just die.
I feel like it also, I don't know, you're doing this whole conceit where you're all in the killer's house, and so the creepy factor comes from the fact that he is able to move throughout this house without you knowing that he's there, and you're never able to really understand where he's at. The original plays into that really well. In this, I feel like we never really feel that paranoid. You never really get that, like, voyeuristic camera movement. You never get that, like, lingering, like, where is the killer? Could he be here or there? It feels like it's very much just a kind of conceit that we're putting on top of this, just almost superfluously, because the film itself doesn't play into that much until you get to the end, and then you start like kind of going through the walls and stuff like that. But you're never really paranoid or scared about the space that it's taking place in, which is a missed opportunity given that you're living inside the killer's house, and they actually make a point of it in this movie as opposed to the original where it's just sort of seemingly random. You're actually playing it up more here, and yet you're doing less with it. Very strange.
Yeah. Can I talk about the detail that I just found the weirdest?
Yeah.
Why the fuck's he yellow?
Dude, I know, right?
Nothing to do with anything.
No, here's what I don't understand.
To make him look creepy, I guess. I don't know.
Here's what I don't understand. Okay. So they're like, there was this chick and she had a husband, and she hated the husband. I don't know why. They don't tell us why, but she hated her husband. And they have a kid.
He's too nice to the yellow child.
Well, they have a kid, and the kid is yellow. And she hates that the kid is yellow, I guess. And well, it's not even, well, no, it's not even that she, okay, no, I'm trying to remember the quote. It's not even that she hates that he's yellow. She hates that every time she looks at the kid, it reminds her of her husband that she hates for undiscernible reasons.
Because the husband's not yellow.
And then, but she clearly doesn't like that the kid is yellow or that the kid looks like her husband. Like, that's established. So then she decides to have a child with that kid. Like, wouldn't the same thing potentially happen? Like, I don't, what's the logic there? Would you not just have another yellow child who looks like this child, who looks like this person that you hate? But instead, you're like, no, I will love the incest baby. And she does. And
So
it's bizarre.
There's a lot of details thrown into this backstory, and a lot of them are really extra, but a lot of them are also just completely meaningless. Like you said, why does he have to be yellow? I don't understand that. But also, more than that, why does he have to be a cannibal at the end? Why is that a thing?
It's just to keep layering it on and layering it on.
Especially because it feels like the motivation at the end of the day feels so confused, because the big thing about Black Christmas, the original, is it's Halloween was deeply inspired by Black Christmas, so it borrows a lot from it. And like Halloween, there's a lot of unknown elements about why any of this is happening. At the end of the day, there's a lot of ambiguity. It's got a much more sort of abstract thematic ideas about what the killer is and why they're preying on young girls and all that stuff. And the first person scenes kind of play into that, yada, yada, yada. The original, you never learn anything about the killer aside from the fact that he's just trying to kill these girls. And so you read into a lot of the ways he's killing them and the way it's presented. So the big sort of mission statement of this movie is, we're not interested in that. We don't care about the fact that the killer could be anybody and that means something. Instead, we're just going to give him a backstory. Okay, great, fine, whatever. We gave Michael Myers a backstory in the Rob Zombie movies, and those rule, so that's fine, whatever. But why is every choice in his backstory just less and less a coherent reason for why he's killing people? Like, if the idea is let's give him a backstory to explain this, how does any of this explain anything?
Well, that's all he's ever known. They're his family now.
Right, it's so lazy, and I feel like I knew it was gonna be that as soon as we get that like exposition scene in the beginning with the guy in the insane asylum, and they start like as soon as we are in an insane asylum, I felt like I knew I was gonna be disappointed by this movie, because as soon as they feel the need to be like, oh, well, actually, the killer is an escaped mental patient with this fucked up history, I'm just like, oh, okay, that's okay. And not only is it that, but it's like, it's fucked up and dark, but it's also just like weirdly cliche and uninteresting. Mm-hmm. It's just like this is like playing a fucking Mad Lib of fucked up serial killer backstories. Like, it's just. There's nothing inspired about it. There's nothing interesting about it.
It's got so many weird, like you said, cliches thrown into it. I mean, escaped mental patient, there's your Michael Myers, weird incestuous relationship with your mom, there's your Norman Bates, killing anybody that comes to your place and you're a disfigured face. That's kind of like, the disfigured face sort of reminds you of like a Jason Freddy situation. But like there's so much here, all of it's just being thrown at the wall, and fine, whatever. Hannibal Lecter cannibalism, whatever. You can have a cliche backstory, that's fine. But by the end of the movie, it just feels like you're doing all this to maybe gross out the audience in intervals, but none of it's actually adding up to anything, and you're never like lingering enough on the weird parts to give the audience that reaction of like really being freaked out by this. Like I remember when the cops show up in the flashback scene and he's eating the flesh cookies, and you get the notion that they are flesh cookies, but I really feel like they cut away from the fact that he's eating flesh cookies and just throw that under the rug for a weird amount of time. Like, if you're gonna go to the lengths of making him a cannibal, why are you just kind of dinking and dunking with that? Like, can we not get a full-on scene or something of him cooking the flesh or something, like fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
It's like,
I mean, like, it's an interesting point to raise, but I guess I will come to the movie's defense just a little bit in that moment of I was watching this with my wife, and as soon as that part happened, she's like, "Oh, no, no," and she turned away. So it might be like a matter of degrees for people. Like, what you're saying is not enough is maybe just already too much for others.
Sure.
Sure.
So I guess I'd just come to defense a little bit and say I think they probably did what they thought was enough to get the point across, given that cannibalism isn't his main thing. Though, thinking about it, maybe Haley just, like, is particularly grossed out by cannibalism, because we tried to watch Bones and All a while back.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah, but, like, we only got about 5 minutes in until she bit off the girl's finger, and then she's like, nope, can't do it. And I had to turn it off. So, maybe that's just, like, gets to a particular place really quickly for her. I don't know, but, for me personally, I didn't feel like I needed more cannibalism.
But it's not even that I needed more cannibalism. I think it's more that it's just like him being a cannibal seems like this just like weirdly tacked on thing that's just like, oh, and also he eats people. It's like,
Yeah.
does he need to? And if he does need to, why is that not more of the focus of him? Like, why is it just a tertiary thing that he eats people that doesn't even really come up except for his backstory?
Especially because if the whole idea is that we're watching a bad exploitive horror movie where everything's bloody and everyone dies unfairly, when you integrate these things as part of the backstory, I think you do kind of create the expectation in people of like, he's a cannibal. I'm going to get to see him do some weird, gross cannibal things. And then he never does. So
I guess he eats eyes, I think, maybe?
Yeah, he does that once or twice, I guess.
Yeah, he does that
That's
once or
weird.
twice.
So, in all fairness, I think it's there more than you might be giving it credit for.
Maybe.
But it just feels like tacked on and part of like the generic thing. What it is for all of his tragic backstory, there's nothing that feels like it bleeds into cannibalism, so the cannibalism just feels out of place.
Right.
Might be more the critique to go for, because, it's not like presumably he's eating something up there, so maybe they just needed to establish that he was, like, having to eat the body of his dad that, like, his mom killed. Which, by the way, just another confusing-ass scene where I was like, what is going on right now? Because he's just, like, up in his room in the flashback, opening the package, and then, like, suddenly there's just some other fucking dude there killing his dad. I was like, wait, is that his dad? What?
Yeah, I mean, I think the larger thing is just, like, there's so many elements to his backstory, but almost none of them have anything to do with the present-day murder horror side of it. So it all just kind of feels superfluous. So, like, back to, like, the larger point of, like, you're gonna make a movie, a remake of a movie that famously does not give its serial killer a motivation, with the pitch that you're gonna give them a motivation, and then the motivation is just incoherent and adds nothing.
Yeah. I also think I can't vouch for this at all, but this is my gut feeling about the yellow thing, because in the original movie, we really don't see the killer much. There's a big build up, and there's one fucking shot where one of the characters looks up and sees his eye just like staring at her through a doorway. And they do it once. It's built up to. It happens at the very end of the movie. It's fucking terrifying. It's utterly terrifying. And there's something about the lighting in that where his eye looks a little bloodshot and he maybe looks a little yellowish. And I'm just like, did they just want to like expand on that? Like, I don't know.
That'd be a very 2006 thing to do. You're not wrong.
Well, that's my thing about it. It feels incredibly dated. Like it feels extremely 2006, and I almost wonder if they're trying to like riff on the Grinch a little bit because like he's born green or he's born yellow. Like I'm trying so like this. It's a stupid thing to get caught up on, genuinely. But I'm trying so hard to rationalize. Like I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the filmmakers and reverse engineer the reason, and I can't do it.
Oh, I don't know. It's a wild fucking movie.
Yeah.
So we've been really, like, really negative so far. But as I said in the beginning, I didn't think it was like. I just didn't feel
It's
like
not
I did not
terrible,
have
yeah.
strong emotions.
no,
It's
no.
not the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's not
a
the
good
mean
movie. It's got lots of problems. But like what about it makes it work better than like I liked this movie more. I liked this movie less than I liked the Mean One personally, but for you guys, what made this one work better for you than something like the Mean One? What was stuff about this movie that like did work for you?
I mean,
Uh,
is it mean if I say that it's just competently shot? Like that feels mean, but like I don't know. I feel like the scares do hit better here. I feel like that there are jump scares that work. There are
the violence and the gore.
Yeah, there are sequences of kills and sequences of danger. Like I do like that that sort of fake out ending scene where they're in the house and she's in between the walls like she's fucking in the Matrix, and they light fire to it and he breaks through, and then you think it's okay, but then he wakes up in the hospital and she throws him over the edge and he impales himself on the tree. Like that's all really fun, and I think that all works really well, and I think it's executed competently enough that it hits the way that they're wanting it to. It doesn't have, I guess, the weird kooky charm that something like The Mean One has, because that's my biggest issue with this movie, is that it's not giving me a lot to grab onto outside of those kind of superficial horror things. It doesn't have a particular mood or tension or atmosphere about it. Even the like creepy phone calls are not very creepy or interesting compared to the original, especially. So I think it's just
man, those 2006 phones though.
Oh god, I do. Everyone's got a Motorola Razr. It's a better time.
Good times.
Well, not just that, like the big chunky home phone with like the digital caller ID on it and stuff. Oh, that was nostalgic.
No,
yeah,
I agree with Matt. I mean, I think there's just like a certain degree of competence to this one that I appreciate.
Okay.
But the other thing about it that I like is, in retrospect, like I didn't see this in 2006, obviously. If I did, I probably would have hated it. But in retrospect, this is a thing that Ian, you and I have talked about quite a bit, where I feel like we've really gotten away from the idea that horror movies are supposed to be nihilistic and mean. And a lot of the times, horror movies just kind of have these weird cop-out endings where they don't lean in enough to the thing about it that's scary, so it always kind of falls flat, where everything's basically just a PG-13 Scooby-Doo episode at a point. And when you watch a movie like this, when you watch something like this, or the first Rob Zombie Halloween, you do get a sense of just like, everyone here is kind of fucked. The movie's going out of its way, like you said, to be unfair. It's unfair to the audience. It's unfair to the characters. It's unfair to like any sort of realistic expectation you can have. And at the same time, every time someone dies, it's just cool and it's funny. And it never gives you the opportunity to really empathize with anyone. They just kind of exist to be props to be killed. And there's a lot to unpack about why maybe we shouldn't be making movies like that in certain contexts. But I think there is a balancing act you can strike of, when you don't hold any of your characters as sacred and you let them all just kind of die, there is kind of just a natural fun to it. Like Matt, when you were talking about the hospital fake out scene, with the Mean One, I said in that review that like I maybe would have had more fun with that if I was watching it with somebody. But when we got to that bit in the end of this movie, but when I was at home by myself, I was cracking up. It's so funny. When he falls on the tree, that was fucking hilarious. Even the incoherent flashback for this backstory, every time anyone said anything to add to this weird, melodramatic, cliche backstory, I was just fucking dying. It's so funny. I think that's part of it, is like this is a movie where you're laughing at it, but it's also not treating anything that it's doing as clever or smart or an inversion of expectations. It's trying to get you to just have the most base reaction possible to it, and I think in that way it kind of succeeds.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I've been kind of ruined by, because I went back and I started watching a lot of these like old 70s exploitation flicks, and then a lot of these like more fucked up horror movies like your Terrifier and your Poughkeepsie tapes. And I feel like I'm getting to the point with horror where I'm just like, either give me something that is genuinely moody and atmospheric and well thought through, like the original Black Christmas, or give me something that's genuinely shocking and exploitative, that is genuinely pretty fucked up. And then with something like this that kind of falls in the middle, there are fun moments to be had here. I just feel like the highs aren't quite as high as I would like them to be. Like, some of the kills are creative, but at the same time, I'm held back a little bit because I'm just like, it's nothing that I haven't seen before or seen done more effectively. And I think that's what lends to it feeling just competent, but kind of generic. Whereas, again, and I know it's not fair to like just compare it to the original, but when I look at the original, which is a much less bloody film, there's imagery in that I find way more effectively horrifying. Like the big thing that's famous from the original that they replicate in this movie is I think Claire getting killed with the paper bag, and then or the plastic bag, and then occasionally cutting back to her in the rocking chair. And they do that in this movie, and it's way less scary and way less effective than it is in the original, because they seem to be replicating that without understanding what made it scary in the first place. And like, it could even just be as simple as in the original, it's a clear bag so you can see her face frozen.
Oh, that would add a lot.
Yeah. In the original, it's a clear bag, so every time you cut to her, you just see her frozen face. And then in this, it's an opaque bag, you can't see through it. And I'm just like, why would you make that choice? You know?
Yeah.
See, and a lot of this too, I also feel like the way that it's undercutting the things that were revolutionary about the first one. A lot of that also does sort of feel like the mid 2000s-ness of it. Because another horror remake of an exploitative 70s movie came out in the same decade, Last House on the Left, right? The original Last House on the Left was one of Wes Craven's, I think it might have been his first movie. And it is also like a violent, exploitative, hard to stomach kind of movie. Basically, right from the opening, you're treated to a couple rape scenes, and it essentially just gets worse from there. And there's a lot to it that just feels like, from the way it's shot, like a home movie, to how mundane everything is, that makes it really hard to stomach. And then you do the 2009 remake, and you keep a lot of the things about that movie on paper the same, but you're less comfortable with the idea of the audience being in like visceral revolt against you. So you pare some of that stuff down so that it's a little bit more stylized or a little bit less violent, or like with the clear bag, you see less of the face. So you can still say, yeah, that was a fucked up thing to do, but it doesn't haunt you. It doesn't stay with you the same way a lot of those classic 70s exploitation films did.
See, I don't know. Like, I liked a decent number of the kills. I do agree the plastic bag thing just felt random and out of place. In this, like, you could go, I guess, somewhere with it if, you know, he started putting like fucking bows on him after he did it or something like that. One of the things I did appreciate about this compared to something like the Mean One, because I remember one of the problems we talked about is the kills in that are just like really generic. They don't really feel Christmassy. Whereas this has like some decent, you know, Christmas theming to it. You know, we talk about the cannibalism with the cookie cutters. That's great. More of that would have been fine.
Sure.
Killing people like with gifts, I think, was pretty good. It's not like Christmas specific, but it is more like generalized winter, when he fucking kills the southern girl in the car because she doesn't get out and help scrape the windows was pretty good. Just like that was actually, I think, one of the better moments in the film, where she hears rumbling in the car, but she doesn't really understand what's going on until you just see blood spatter across the inside of the window, but like you can't actually see the inside of the car because the frost is still just opaque all over the window. I thought that was fantastic.
Mhm.
And that, again, that just goes with like that kind of Christmassy, wintry kind of feel. So those kills, I think, add to it. Then there are others that, again, just like, you could maybe make an argument, oh, well, he's killing her with the Christmas gift of the unicorn or whatever, but it's just, it's getting like too far away from it. Same for just Under the Porch. Reusing a kill in a horror movie feels like an automatic deduction kind of sin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So I didn't love that.
I do think the timing on that like back-to-back kill of she gets killed in the car, the blood splatter happens, and then the chick who's outside backs up, hits the thing, looks up, the icicle falls.
Yeah.
Perfect. Snappy.
That's really good.
Beautiful. Wonderful. That's the kind of
Do you
stuff.
think he was disappointed?
Oh, that like, oh damn
Yeah,
it! I had a whole
was-
plan for that one.
Yeah. The icicle took my kill.
I actually really. It was funny too because I remember watching that when she dies inside the car and blood just splatters all over the inside of the windshield. I'm like, genuinely, what could he have possibly done to someone in that car to cause that to happen? And there's really nothing, but because it's off camera, you can't see it. You just see the blood splatter. It just works.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when she backs up, hits the thing, that's the kind of like quick, snappy editing that you wouldn't have gotten in that 70s movie. But now we're, you know, in this 2006 movie, that's the kind of, you know, snappy moment to moment thing that you can do. And more of that, more of these just domino effects, more of just these sudden random bursts of violence. I think that could have lended itself to this movie a little bit more as well.
That
I
scene
wonder if
felt
anyone's
the most
made like a
like...
Home Alone horror parody. Like, I know there's been lots of like trailers, but like that feels like a very like Home Alone-esque kill, you know, where it's
Yeah.
just like a sequence of events, and like I wonder if anyone's done that with Home Alone. There has to at this point.
I mean, if you got Winnie the Pooh, the horror movie, I'm sure you got Home Alone, the horror movie somewhere. Just got to search Tubi.
Exactly.
Better watch out. Red Band trailer, Home Alone horror. Okay, yeah, that's the thing.
There you go.
Uh,
But yeah,
now
no,
the question is Kevin the killer or not?
that icicle kill, that's the... Because this movie is very 2006, but like it's that in the best way and the worst way. That kill in particular is when it's 2006 in the best way, because it's
Yeah.
channeling what you would see in like Final Destination or the Saw movies, where it's quick, it's edited well, it has that clear cause and effect, and it lingers just long enough for you to be kind of satisfied that you watched both sides of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is a random question, but on the like cover for the movie, like if you're looking at Tubi, if you look at like where it says Black Xmas, the like photo is like a chick's face, and she's like looks terrified, and she's all wrapped up in like Christmas lights. Does that ever happen?
No.
No.
Okay, because that's kind of an effective image. Like that kind of sticks with you a little bit. And like I don't
It's a good
remember
cover.
that. I don't remember that ever happening in the thing.
I
Kind of a
remember
missed
looking
opportunity.
at that poster, and maybe this is just like bland sorority face amnesia. But I looked at that poster, I'm like, is that girl even in the movie? Anybody?
I like this banner image that
Oh,
I'm just gonna call
God.
the cleavage image.
That is the most
that's just
CW High Gretchen Wiener,
Right.
High Gretchen Wieners
Yeah.
from Mean Girls. God, that is.
Just look at
Incredible.
like the cleavage, the exposed midriff. Just that's got a lot going for it right there. I wouldn't even know if that's a horror movie. That could just be the porn parody image right there.
That's how
the-
they made their budget back right there.
Oh God,
It's funny because you mentioned that this got made again. That there's another remake of
Yeah.
this. And it's funny to compare. Look at what they took from us. Kind of compare
Dude, I know.
The presentation of the women and the female form.
You could not come up with a better differentiator between 2006 and 2019 if you tried.
Yes.
Like, that is... It's insane.
I'm almost tempted to watch that one now because I'm just curious.
I strongly am as well, because that's wild.
It's so funny.
I promise you the 2019 one is going to be like more about them being badasses and killing the killer.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not
They're all going to be the final girl.
Yeah, and that's kind of that, like, because horror has... I need to broach this carefully. Right, there's something about a killer is stalking and murdering just this sorority full of women. So, like, there is something inherently about that, and about, like, the way that horror tends to target women as its, like, subjects of violence. So it makes sense that you might try to do some sort of subversive remake in the future and say, like, okay, well, the women are badasses and they're gonna hold their own. And that feels well-intentioned, but it also feels kind of exhausting because it doesn't feel like it's the best faith read of the original horror material. But
Right.
I understand it. I understand it as a response to this movie, but not as a response to the original 70s film, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I mean, this kind of gets into why the original is so enduring and interesting, and why the remake didn't even really need to have to be a remake, especially if you weren't just going to call it straight up Black Christmas. Because the original has you in the first person POV shots of the killer throughout the movie. And all of that stuff is done handheld. And you're doing, like Matt said, that voyeuristic imagery of you're stalking the girls, you're watching them. You've got these really creepy, nasty phone calls. You've got these scenes where you linger on the acts of violence that are committed to the women, but you're always doing it from the perspective of the killer. So, like, if you want to have this conversation about the way horror treats women, or the way violence is enacted on women in horror movies, a great example of something that examines that and society's desire to see women objectified and violated in the most horrible ways.
Wait,
is
are you
Black
about to...
Christmas?
I thought...
No.
I was literally about to be like, yes, I too have read Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean that's what Black Christmas is about at the end of the day, right? It's already interrogating that idea of when you as an audience member are seeing through the eyes of the killer, and you are put in that role of enacting the violence on the female character. That's creepy. That's dissonant. That's not meant to glorify it. It's meant to freak you out. And that's why the original movie is so good. So every time you try and remake it, and it's almost like you're trying to outsmart the original instead of understanding what it did so well. And that's what that 2019 cover vibe gives me. The one benefit I'll give 2006 over the 2019 one, even though I haven't seen the 2019 one, is I think there's no pretense with the 2006 one. Right? Like, this is pure and simple a cash grab. It knows what it's doing. It knows exactly who it's for. And there's never a moment in this movie where I think it's ever trying to be smarter or thinks it's more clever than it actually is. And if you're gonna make a remake of Black Christmas and you are nowhere near at the level to understand or engage with what that original movie is doing, then this is probably your best shot at doing it in a way that's still kind of entertaining.
Sure.
Again, yeah, like, I didn't hate it. It's not very good, but I didn't hate it. Without having watched the original, I can't really say, is the daughter reveal in the original too, or is that unique to this?
I mean, there's none of that in the original.
Okay, because that does feel like it's tangentially connected to the, to a bit what we're talking about of, like, the feminist or anti-feminist messaging of horror movies, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So, is the solution for horror movies being kind of low-key sexist and exploring the society's need to see violence enacted against women, is the solution to that to have more female killers? Is that,
It wouldn't
no,
hurt.
Like, legitimately, like could you do like, because we've had them here and there. Like there's Syl from Species, that's a really good one. But like,
Jason's mom.
you know,
Yeah,
Jason's mom to an extent. But like, could you get away with like a female Freddy Krueger? Like, could you legitimately sell just a quippy, like evil, love to hate him kind of horror villain?
Okay.
And have that be a message of feminist empowerment?
Yes. I mean, let me.
I asked two other men.
Let me. Okay. I have a joke answer and I have a slightly more serious answer. The joke answer that is still somewhat true is yes, and I know this because outside of movies for a second, Lady Domitresque from Resident Evil exists.
Oh yeah.
She is tall, scary vampire lady, genuinely frightening, is also just an incredibly fun character, and everyone loves her. It can be done. The other slightly more serious answer, I feel like this is almost like trying to ask that question of like, is the solution to females being objected or women being objectified in movies to equally objectify men? It's like, well, we're still using the tools of like the male gaze and all of that. So I feel like it just depends on how it's done, because if we're still using the rules of horror as they've been established, just swapping the gender of the killer, I don't know if it's necessarily going to achieve equilibrium, because I feel like we're still using those tools.
This is the problem with the Scream sequels, right? Like, that's why there's diminishing returns in every single one, because it's always a slasher. It's always a slasher that's self-aware of the slasher formula, and every time they try to do something clever with who the real killer is, it's never really subversive, because it's always playing into those same exact tools. And again, this is sort of why I say, like, that's why Black Christmas is the original is so enduring and why it's so good, because I feel like if the idea is we want to do something that feels more empowering, and you just make the woman the killer, okay, but you then have to start engaging with this idea of what exactly about society is violent in the first place, and who is that violence impacting regularly, and who is the vehicle that we examine the consequences of that violence through. And if your idea is the killer is the woman, and she's the one who is the enabler of the violence, then I think you're going to have a really hard time grounding that in anything that sounds like a meaningful critique of the very thing you're trying to do. There are certainly ways to do it. I mean, I'm sure there have been good, successful attempts at it. But part of the reason, and like Matt said with Carol Clover and Men, Women, and Chainsaws, part of the reason the final girl sticks out in horror fiction is not for the cliche reason of we as a society like seeing women in danger, but more for that representational reason of the person that society inflicts the most violence on through the genre of horror is women. So you're watching a woman live through, in metaphorical terms, what daily violence is. That's why the killers have to be men, because that's what it's saying about society. So if you make the killer a woman, it's like you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and misunderstanding what horror movies like Black Christmas are trying to do in the first place.
Or you can just you can kind of make me retroactively like Woman in the Yard a little bit more and be like, well, now we're examining the idea of women's violence on the self and
exactly.
And because I think that is a good example of a female horror villain who is actually like kind of proper iconic. Like, she's very cool in that movie and yet very terrifying in what she represents. So I feel like it can be done. It's just a matter of, can you do it without it just kind of being that one trick pony?
Or like Get Out, right? Like, where you have the girlfriend who's white and the person the violence is being enacted on is the black man because it's about race.
I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I'm like, could you get away with I'm just trying to imagine like the quips that, because you got like the Freddy Krueger of like, welcome to prime time, bitch. I'm trying to imagine like the female equivalent of that, like just a female killer going through and just fucking murdering a fraternity or something. And like what would her quips be? Could it be done? Could it be done? Well, anything could be done. Could it be done well? could she endear herself to the wider audience in the same way that Freddy Krueger did? What does it say about society?
There is an interesting related tangent of how generally in film and in awards season, we're really, really hesitant to award performances of women that are portraying unlikable characters in a way that's disproportionate, where men play unlikable characters and they get all their awards. So, like, you go through history and you look at all of the nominees for Best Actress, and you know, with some mild exceptions here and there, like in Misery, most of the time, the woman who gets nominated is a woman that represents the best of all women and all the suffering, the every woman, the sort of Platonic ideal that can't make a mistake. And in years where you have a lot of complicated portraits of women, like this year, like If I Had Legs, I Could Kick You, or like Die My Love, like those kinds of movies where the character is messy or has a difficult in, or you can't like them as much, they don't get as much consideration because they're not likable. Versus like a guy playing a really charismatic cult leader or the Joker or something like that, where we're like, oh yeah, that's the greatest performance of all time.
My Carly has a theory that it's because women are held back because they're not allowed to not be hot for like even a like small period of time, so they can't, if they act too hard, suddenly they don't look hot anymore.
Right, yeah.
Like, you're not wrong.
Interesting. No, that's a good point. Because like anytime that we do get female killers, the motivation tends to be, or the methodology tends to be around sex. Like, I think one of the biggest examples it would be like Jennifer's Body,
Yeah.
where that's like a completely sex-driven movie. You know, Misery is this idea that she's in love with him, and there's like a sexual undertone to all that, or a romantic undertone, because he writes the shitty romance novels that she loves so much, which is, you know, just porn for women. So there's like, I'm struggling to think, because I didn't watch it, but oh, what's her name? I can't remember the actress's name. She was in so much stuff. She's the one that bakes the shit pie in that one civil rights movie. What the fuck is it? The one about the maids. Anyway, there's like a horror movie that came out kind of recently, female killer, and she's like out for revenge for being like sexually abused or misused, whatever. Anytime we do have a female killer, like, sex is such a big motivation, and like even with someone like Freddy Krueger, right, who is, you know, constantly sexualizing and everything, all of his kills do not revolve around sex. His backstory and his motivation comes from like these sexual pervert kind of roots, but like, you know, when he kills the one, like one of the most iconic like looks Freddy Krueger has, right, is when he turns his blade fingers into hypodermic needles, and he goes after the recovering drug addict, right? Like, that's just so iconic and creepy and fucked up, and he's like, everything he's doing is often revolving around like just these, you know, crazy nightmare imagery. I don't think I can name anything equivalent with like a female killer in a horror movie.
Well,
it is often so based around sex, and it's because, yeah, you can still do horror and look sexy, so you don't have to drop the sex appeal side. So that's a really good point.
well, and
Matt's wife.
Yes, thank you, Carly. I know she can't hear me because she's in the other room ignoring us, and that's fine.
there is
It would be weirder if she just sat there listening to just your side of the
Right. And she's just like looking over at me like, I don't know, those two seem like idiots. I feel like you have the real, you've got the real take here.
A few years ago, there was a remake of Hellraiser where Pinhead was played by a woman. And
Oh
that's another
yeah.
horror franchise that's like very much about bondage and sex and about the limits of pleasure and pain and stuff. And it was interesting that they cast a woman as Pinhead, but it was such a sexless movie, and I think that's part of why no one really remembers it. Um, but to your point, another really good example of this is the Scarlett Johansson movie, Under the Skin, where for a large portion of it, it is literally just Scarlett Johansson walking around naked, and the sex appeal of that is like you're in. But the more you watch it, and the more it's framed, and the way the music plays and stuff, it just it takes the sex appeal out of it and just becomes this sort of hypnotic, scary thing. A lot like It Follows, where like that's a movie about being killed after you have sex. So the sex part of it is the least appealing thing about it throughout the whole movie.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just an interesting thought to see if you could go to that place with female characters in horror. It'd be an interesting experiment if I'm sure somebody's at least tried it. So if anyone knows of any attempts to do this, to get like a female slasher in that same like Jason, Freddy, Michael, blah 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 kind of tradition that doesn't rely on sex appeal or sexiness, I would be interested to give that a watch.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because even the example that I gave that I think is genuinely a good female horror villain in Lady Dimitrescu, she's still hot. Like that's everyone wants.
Oh yeah, no.
Everyone wants her to step.
Aware.
Everyone wants to be stepped on by her. So it's like,
It's true.
yeah. So it's like that still doesn't. I don't know. Samara in the ring looks kind of fucked up when she shows up. Got nothing.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of getting there. I don't know if I'd count her in the same vein, but
No.
that is a good example of it's a female character. It is horror based. She is like the lead character, so that's definitely checking a number of the boxes. But I don't think it quite gets to the same as like the. I think what you need for the slasher is like that gleeful. They just love murder.
Well, okay, but like
thing.
we've done that, right? Like we do that in like we do that with like Reagan in The Exorcist, and we do it with the chick who gets possessed in the Sam Raimi Evil Dead. But the problem is it's not their fault. They're being possessed by another entity. So it like it still kind of doesn't count, you know? Like the real villain is the thing that's possessing them, not the women themselves, even though they're the face of it. So like it's still like it's got that degree of separation, right?
Yeah.
So hear me out. John Carpenter's Christine. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So that movie is all about an evil car that's going around and killing people. But under the hood of that car, it is essentially a movie about teenage boys and their sexual awakening, and the car is a woman. And the car is literally the vehicle to that sexual awakening. And as the main character gets to have Christine and clean her up and change her paint and stuff, he goes from being nerdy to being like a jerk and being confident and going out with the hottest girl in school and all that stuff. And when people get jealous and Christine is attacked and then she regenerates, the way that regeneration scene is shot, you've got like sexy
It's like a
saxophones.
striptease.
It's like a striptease. Yeah, like it's playing on all these expectations of what you would allegedly have with a female serial killer villain of let's take all the tropes of what makes something sexy and just imbue them into the evil entity of the movie. And what does that say about our character's relationship to this thing that's supposed to be sexy? It's kind of like the reverse of what I was saying before, where like if the monster of the movie is supposed to be the bad thing, where it's supposed to be the thing that we're supposed to be examining, then it makes sense for that thing to be a man most of the time. But if the thing you're examining is something like sex or sexual violence or sexual feelings of jealousy, then you can do that a number of ways with a female character. But you can also do it with things that we treat like objects in a way that parallels how men treat women like objects, like a car.
So Steve thinks women are objects. Got
That's
it.
what I got. That's what I got from that conversation. That's the only thing I heard. Tuned out the rest.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. I'm sorry I took us off on such a tangent with that, but that's just like immediately where my head went of like, it's weird that we haven't gotten like a female Freddy Krueger. And then I just remembered when someone posted their couple's costume where it was a guy and a girl and they're both dressed up as Freddy Krueger, and Twitter, I'm just gonna assume it's Gen Z at this point, decided, I can't believe anyone would dress as a pedophile. And I'm like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
it's a fictional character. What are we doing here?
Gen Z is gonna make me start sounding like one of those anti-woke chuds real fast.
Honestly.
God, like I'm getting tired of it. I love you,
around,
Gen
like,
Z.
sex.
Keep doing what
No,
you're.
I don't.
Keep doing what
I
you're.
don't.
Stop doing what you're
Stop
doing.
it.
Stop doing
Stop
what you're
it
doing
right now.
No, the Puritan sex thing is I don't.
Yeah, it's getting weird.
That's a whole other topic, but you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just that idea just fascinated me. But let's go back to Black Xmas and talk about why they took Christ out of Black Christmas. So we mentioned just briefly in the beginning about the incestuous hookup scene with his mom and just how like unsettling and creepy that is. And I don't know if that's in the original at all or not. I imagine you said there is no background.
There's no backstory.
Anything you say that's related to the killer in this movie is not in the original.
That's fair. So I don't know. That was a scene that like probably gave me the biggest amount of revulsion. Like, I don't love gore the way I used to, but I'm more immune to it than I think most people are. So none of the gore in here really like hit for me or grossed me out personally, but like that part did actually revolt me a little bit, which is weird to say because we existed in an era where it's hard to find porn that doesn't have step in the title. Let's just lay the cards on the table there. And I don't know when that trend really started, but it certainly has just evolved and gotten everywhere, and it's so gross. Like it doesn't matter what it is, it's just like the second you see that, like, it's gross, it's weird. I don't get why people fantasize about that, and like, I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum. If that's like really just your fantasy but you're not acting on it, sure, fuck, whatever, I guess. But why has that shit become so widespread when, just back in 2006, it was something that, is just so disgusting you could put it in a horror movie. So that's like an interesting way to kind of date this movie, I guess, to show something that gross, and now that for most people is probably like more tame, if not like, oh, fuck yeah, it's hot.
See, if there's one thing that this movie does that I think you would not be able to get away with now, is you wouldn't be able to have the incest scene and the mom not be hot. They would do that shit now. They would cast like the most attractive actors possible in like her mid-30s and be like, look at this old lady. Look at how desperate and sad she is.
All
now
right.
enjoy this non-sex scene with her son.
And we would get a little bit of a strip tease.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they just cast like a hot actress as Jason's mom in a TV show, and I'm like, okay, this is where we're at.
Because like fucking what was it? They did that TV series for Bates Motel, right?
Yeah.
And like in that they made the mom hot and stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, what are we doing here, guys?
Got to make it believable that he would be interested. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. They went from an old crazy lady in Friday the 13th to fucking Linda Cardinelli for Jason's mom.
I do think it's funny. This is a deeply unserious point. I think it's funny that at the insane asylum they like put the time and effort into trying to make him food that in taste and texture was as similar to human flesh as they could. Like, that's really considerate of them. That's like
So
that's,
weird, yeah.
that's like the Arkham doctors being like, no, we'll let Joker keep his clown suit 'cause it helps somehow with his rehabilitation. Like, no, it doesn't.
Did you guys have the same reaction I did to the Insane Asylum, where it almost felt like every scene in that movie seemed like it belonged in a different campy Sam Raimi style movie, and it was just completely at odds with the rest of the movie?
I mean, but that's what this movie needed, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but no, I feel that. Like the door getting stopped by the milk carton or whatever.
It was just so weird and campy that I thought that
That's
was going to
so-
be the energy.
That's so specific, and it's got such a like an interesting texture to it, and you're just like, oh, is that the kind of movie I'm in for? And like, kind of, you get that like opening kill where he like stabs her in the eye after putting the bag on her, and then just like the hard like Black Christmas. And so you think you're in for this like super insane, you know, firing on all cylinders, let's go, go, go movie. And I feel like it wants to be that at times, but then it spends a lot of time just devoted to like sorority girl drama that doesn't really matter.
Love that the boyfriend, like, filming themselves fucking and posting it on the internet or whatever is just like, it doesn't lead to anything. They tell him to get the fuck out, he leaves,
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah.
he just randomly comes back later and does fuck all.
Well, is that
It's-
is that because in the original the main like red herring character is a boyfriend of one of the women? So like is that like their like really bad attempt to give him some semblance of a motive so he could be like a red herring?
Well, it doesn't work because we've already seen him fuck. We've already seen these fucking murders before that like motivation is revealed, right?
Right.
Like, so it just doesn't work to direct your attention away. I just thought he was an asshole.
The thing about that character, like, he's so pushy from the get-go. It does feel like he's hiding something, because what human being would be this fucking impatient and this pushy and like literally break into your window and stuff? And you're right. I mean, it does kind of have that vibe of the boyfriend misdirect in the first one. But the difference, though, was like in that one, he was freaked out because he had a legitimate motivation that you could kind of buy that drove him to potentially kill people. In this, you don't get any of that. And like Ian said, the killing's already started by the time he shows up. And he just disappears out of the movie for such a big chunk of it that it doesn't even really function as a red herring. But every time he shows up, he's just so fucking suspicious that it makes you wonder, like, is he on drugs? Like, what's his deal?
Yeah.
Another thing I want to complain about with this movie, that's kind of neither here nor there. I'm sure this doesn't hold up for basically any horror movie when you really get down to it, but the action does all take place in one house. This motherfucker's moving around through the house. These kills are happening in the house. How good's the insulation in this place? How does no one hear shit? Like, I don't know. And I'm not mad at her. I'm not complaining about this. I just hear it, so I'm saying something. But, like, I don't know what my wife is doing in the other room right now. I just keep hearing, like, little clicks and bops and stuff from behind the door. If there was a shout or a scream, yeah, I don't care if there's a bag over the face. Or, like, how the fuck does no one hear anything? How do they run outside to look for the girl? Not because they hear the scream, but just because they notice that she's been gone for a long time. She's just outside under the house, man. Like, how do you not hear this?
It's wild how painstaking the original film is about accounting for that stuff. Like, it's shocking how painstakingly that movie goes out of its way to make it believable. And it's one of those little details, because it's not a huge thing in the grand scheme of things, but that's one of those little details that just kind of continues to add on to this movie not feeling quite as memorable or as it should. It's also hilarious because, like, based on the flashback timeline, the sort of fucked up family didn't leave the house until what? I think the last flashback is in 1991. And then like there's a scene where they're under the porch and she's like trying to get away and she's like digging at the dirt, trying to pull herself away. And you see the like skull of the killer's dad who she like killed and tried to bury under the porch. And I'm like, no one found that? Like they didn't inspect the
investigation.
There was a whole investigation. They didn't inspect the foundation of the home and find a fucking skeleton. Like
they know where the power box is, so they've presumably been down there already.
Yeah. And this is a house that you are selling to be used on like a university campus, like for a sorority, and you didn't thoroughly inspect that?
That's another thing of just like a detail that doesn't make sense, right? Because you got the misdirect character for Eve. I believe the character's name was the girl with the glasses.
Oh, who is not the daughter, but you think she is.
Yeah. So like she's introduced as like this awkward, misfit that doesn't really fit like the sorority thing, and the one of the girls says something to the house mom, and she's like, her mother was a legacy, and the other character is like an older lady, slightly older, and she'd only spent like a couple months in this sorority,
right?
But like she knows the traditions of we got to get a present for Billy, yada yada. And I'm like, if the house went up in 91 is when the like police come and arrest him, and the one dude is, talking about, we rode past this house all the time. This house scared the shit out of us. And, like, there's all this legend attached to the house. How the fuck long could it have been a sorority to the point where there's this long-standing tradition of getting the killer gifts? Like, that doesn't hold.
It's been like 15 years. Like, how?
Yeah, like, there's... It doesn't time out. Like, to be a legacy for, would she fucking get pregnant in the home? Like the timing just, there was this killer in it. Well, we need a fucking sorority house here, so boom.
We got it on the cheap.
Yeah, it would be less of a problem if the exact same movie came out now, because like the time gap kind of works. But we're supposed to assume this is coming out, concurrent with its release in 2006. So, like, at best, you're talking about this is set in 2005 or 2006 at Christmas time. So, like, just the timing just doesn't fucking work. And there's just so many, I guess, just small details that either feel unfair to the audience, unfair to the characters, or just not thought out at all.
Yeah. I was actually kind of thinking the same thing, because I'm just like, because as they kept going through the flashback timeline, and then the last one is 1991, I'm like, that's like shockingly close to when this movie starts. Like, are we sure that that's how we want to do this? Yeah.
I mean, if you make him too much older, he's just not gonna be like believably physically capable of shit. It was a bit of like that problem that people had with when Gotham was on the air. And, like, even though Bruce was, like, 15, they kept, like, introducing all the villains so that, like, presumably by the time he left Gotham and did all the training and came back, he'd just be fighting a bunch of, like, fucking geriatrics.
Well, that's what, like, it's a problem that they created by, like, all right, we're going to give the killer this, like, super fleshed out backstory and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, you've now written yourself into a corner where now you have a conceit that just doesn't make any sense, because it's like, well, we have to give him a backstory that involves the house for some reason. So therefore he has to have lived in the house, but he can't be too old, but it also has to be a sorority because that's what it was in the original. If they're not a sorority, then what are we even doing here? And it's like, maybe you should have just not done any of that. I don't know.
Maybe you should have just made a better movie.
Yeah.
Maybe you just
you didn't have to give us dates. Like, you didn't have to give us dates for when all this stuff was happening, right? Like, that would have perfectly solved the problem. Then it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't have any, like, real point of reference for exactly how old any of the characters, the killer, the daughter are. You wouldn't have to worry about, like, how long has the sorority been in the house. You could establish, like, there's this long-standing tradition, and stuff. And, like, what was it? Because they even give a fucking date, too, don't they? doesn't she say like 93 or 94 when she was in the house, or does she say 96 or 97?
I forget. Yeah.
But like she gives a date for when she was a sorority sister, and then the like house mother goes, "Well, I started being a house mother in that year." Well, then how the fuck were you like having time to get into this sorority? Would you fucking graduate from college and then immediately come back to be a house mom, and then you're still here? I don't know how sororities and fraternities work, but that seems ridiculous. Move on.
It's a very
Okay.
odd movie.
Yeah,
I'd also-
alright, so this movie's bad,
Yeah.
and it should feel bad.
Should. It also removes my favorite running gag of the original, which is that the house mother has alcohol hidden in like increasingly convoluted places.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But again,
It's good.
don't want to just compare. This movie is bad all on its own, but I didn't.
It doesn't
Didn't
need the rest to be bad.
exactly. But it didn't remind me what it is to loathe something, so I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's not as bad as 9/11, so there's that.
It's not as bad as 9/11 or the much worse 8 Crazy Nights. No.
I will say, if nothing else, I'm really happy that by me picking this, Matt got to watch Black Christmas from 1974 and enjoyed it. That makes me happy.
Oh, yeah, no. Black Christmas 1974 is super good. Super good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Little slow in the middle, but good.
Oh, I'm glad. I didn't watch it.
That's okay.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it. I think we're just kind of going in circles about it at this point. I'll go first on ratings. I'll give this movie 1.5 out of 5 body bags that open way too easily. I feel like we shouldn't make body bags openable inside. I feel like it's just like, I understand maybe there's some kind of an emergency or something, but I feel like just for the sake of the inevitable zombie apocalypse, we should be taking better stands against this. If you have a near-death experience and they call you and put you in a body bag, you should have to struggle a lot or knock or just get some assistance to get out. I don't think that is too big a burden to place upon people when you consider the security risk that we're up against here. We already took our fucking shoes off at the airport already. Like, just come on.
This is an example of a good superstition.
Exactly.
I'll give Black Christmas or Black Xmas 2006 1 out of 5 icicles through the face.
Nice. I'll give it 1.5 out of 5 angel flesh Christmas cookies. Flesh cookies shaped like angels, I should say. Kind of impressive that he was able to get such clean cuts out of skin with a cookie cutter.
Would have made for an interesting premise if that was his backstory.
I feel like she should have been alive when he did it.
Dude, right? Like, oh
Right.
god, that's now. Now we're talking. Now we're getting. Now we've got a movie.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Let me ask this question, because I was gonna say we don't really need a Christmas movie next time, because if I can do another episode, it's not gonna go up until after Christmas anyway. And that did leave the thought of like, oh well, maybe we should find a New Year's one. Would it be sacrilegious to go back a holiday? Like instead of doing a Christmas movie, go back and do a Thanksgiving movie for next week, because I might have something that would be pretty good for on that final point that'd be worth talking about.
I don't care about traditions mean nothing to me.
All right, Steve, do you oppose?
I do not oppose. I'm assuming we record same time of the week every week. I think with whatever you pick.
Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead. Next time we'll talk about Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that'll be a good one. All right. Until then, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the person who hasn't come up with a good sign off yet, but I'm working on it. So I'm trying to.
I still like the erotica lover. I think that was great, and I don't know why you're being a coward and abandoning it. Maybe you've just gotten too Gen Z-ified.
Oh,
maybe that's the problem here.
that's a fair point. I'm the Cannibal Christmas erotica lover.
I thought you were going to say that you were the jaundiced serial killer erotica lover.
That specifically really does it for me.
All right, and then I'm the Luddite.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!